a Tonga mafikaunanga mo o tu momoa. E ko ha ofa tu nga hange ko tala e folofola. Mui fui vai e ngalo nai he ha. Ai tangi me he te mo whakaanawa. Hono folaua a o se ni mo hono ngā ha. Ikai ha utu e hakea. Tu lau he viviku hono whakahifo mo hono whakaheka. Ai suingi he mai a. Rifi e ka ngā he puha whaangauta. Kofu e kauto ole kere ka he whala hange hapekia. Etc. Etc. Peka alata amaki mo popo uri anatula. Oia we te mau fefe. He koloto tahi pe mo moana vavale. Wafu, wafu, wafu. Ko anea fia mo hono ngahi whaingata a. Ki he apongi e fie maarie pe a fonu i he fie fia. Ko ha matapā tene lilingi e ngahi monu ia. Ki ho tau ki motu tupuanga. Ka ko tau pole pole anga. Ko ho o wha mo ho toko ni. Ko i vai kau aki a ki he langa ngā weni. Let's go, let's go, let's do it. Siuhu o to mua na muka wolf project. Palestini pentu i pulotu ono ni manoa ton wha ono wanoa tahiva. Peko se tali mele mo ala fisi uano ono fitu walu ono valtol fitu walu.
La mai lolo palesi mo lolo francese ko tau pepe lolo me loto Hollywood seuke kai pe ko fo star at 5 ko te ke fai ka pakao angelo ko lo ye kau angelo ho ek mo kai ngatonga mamani ko tau pepe ko lo kau angelo pe mahino leva ko loloni ko to ngai me hina lolo ala pasita amele maktarine le fratolonga mai atu fia mo kakala iloa le furi me ot motuanga ofa ke guia ye pako langa karisi ale hei lala moho koi kalos pani pe ai foki pe mo blue maria mo kalasi ke he maria he ko taimi ko te ke mairi ai oa pe tane ne ke fahi e mere maktarine foi alabasta ko ene fakatau ele fika telefoni fitu no noa hiva malu fa ta fitu pe ko tolu wa tolu hiva valu fa noa hiva wa ko ia ta leva ke fika telefoni fitu ono noa hiva valu fa taha fitu pe koi tolu wa tolu hiva valu fa noa hiva wa ko talatu o kusi e kuleaka aku amu atu he kohono manongi tene ave koi ke vava mo mahina pe te ke maali kana si ofetu u pe mo faka isa tau lolo ala pasita kiai
To know your risk of getting COVID-19. When you see more faces are in your space and linger in places, avoid crowds, limiting close contact from people who don't live with you and choosing outdoor spaces at least 6 feet apart. Stop the spread of COVID-19. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Clean and disinfect frequently touches objects and surfaces. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw the tissue in the trash and wash your hands. Wear a mask over your nose and mouth. Do not touch your eyes, nose, or mouth. Stay at least 6 feet from other people. If you're sick, stay home except to get medical care. Public announcement for the people of King County.
Malau mari a ho eki pe alelei ai tonga kotoa pe o ku wa o dia ai ui pe mo e whakako whatongi e ko ia ai le te o le o ia o e tonga pe me Seattle Singtoni ka ko e baenga ia o e Vake Tali Folau. Whamalo fo ke baenga o Vake Tali Folau ko kina tolu ia o ku nau whaihono whakahoko a ho maule o ki he ngalo pe mo mamani kotoa pe. Koia e koia e whakawhi ke teki mō tōru ke mō kau mai i he poroklama koia o e hota e whiawhi koeni ka kohono e whiawhi hota whalai tēni kohono aho walo urak mahina o e wanoa wataha. Te tau kau whataha i he hotani mo e taha o e kau whawhawhonga pia me he King County ai a kokina tōru ia unau whaiono whakaibia a ki mau tōru e ai a koe media ke a watu ai awareness waka polkalama koe ia o e COVID tahiwa ke a o ke ngahi loto whare ko te kotoa be koe a kui ai whakawhi ki te mau toro e mau share atu e tau polkalama i he hoata whalai te a koe ni.
ngā o wakange setting. Ai. O kua ngai tai nimi? Kata kio set for the day pe ai ma. Ore vai. Tai ma fi fasi kata ki. O whataonge pe kua ngoanto. Tuku hake pe ai sao ni kata ki me se ni. Tuki hapau delay me hen.
Ia ule o lahi ape tohe.
Ia, kona kua ngoa. O le lea pita. Kore pe ke hufanga ngai whataputoa pe. Whamalo he ni ki a me se ni. Fo whataonge me si ato ka pe he foki. Ki ki ofe fine. Mansio. Malo pita mansio e tokon. I he whahok whataungia ko ia o whai atu me pāe ngai Vake Tali Folau. O ko Makau atu pia mo e Melimi, San Francisco, i mau inga o e pokalama ko ia o e ahoni. E ka taha pokalama mau inga o e ahoni ko e whinga o e aki ko ia pia mo e Public Health Seattle and King County. Pia i mau inga ko ia e whai ai ki i o talanoa mo e taha o e ka ofisa me he King County e mili, Pea o si iai pea ngai whiu, e whinga pe i he whonga ki te mahino ngai i taurea whatonga, ka he koe pārangi whukini kau mai ki he pokalama. Pea ne pe kokore atu ke mou whawhi, a ki mou tolu ko ia i Seattle, ke mou kau mai he koe tahane pokalama whakate whito ke mou tolu o ku mou papaea i Seattle. Ho tonu ko ia e tolu e humaya e kaunanga ko ni emri, pea la pe ke tukumano ingoa, pea mo e tau mua ngā oe, ka kou whamalo atu ki a mele. Mele whewhe hea I se ato. O ko sai pepe, o hange o me sai pepe, o mo tau whitori mo tolu mo sino. Tuko mai mele, malo.
Koe tu koe ai e a I he tau a mata e hui I he hoa tae whia whikonisione. Hange koe lau koe ia ai kananga mata fulu au bito ai kolo ia o e malata he pompong koe ni. Ai e kohono whakaton lea whoki koe e tahasione. Aku whakapopo uri ana tula uha pe atoi momoko. Neonga koe e a pe nia wanga kia whonuani ai lahi pe koe ai uha. Ka oku toi kanoni aki ko ene momoko. Aku tau whakamalo pe neonga pe ai uha kaupo uri ana tula. Ka tau kei whakamalo pe he oku tau kei kau pe he lau, tau kei mau pe manawa mo ui, tau kei mo ui lelei pe a hange koe whakarea koe taha. Oku iai e tokanga mawahe ke si ngai whamili. Oku toka mo e kafo ai maha ki. Pe a oku iai e whakatawange pe, o whake tokone ai ki ka tingi nau tolu, ki toi wawi hataimi, ke nau toi mau ai ha mo ui lelei. Ka kohono whakakatoa o e taua matahui e sione tualau makahili hoa tā koe ni neungoa e alotaa maki ka kutoka maari e pe me ano kotoa me he kolo ia o e malata.
Kai nā. Pera tāwhike ni hange o ke wakai koe ki ai mele tāwhike ni po kalama I whengau ati koe I ape mo I county, King County tau whanau no pe King County. Tāhoki ai tokanga kina koe King County ki e kakai e Pasifiki ka pehe ke tau tolu ko ia kai no Tonga. Pea I anga ko ia na wakai ki tōkunga ko ia pea statistic. Ne ongo e tau population o tau kakai toko si. Ka koe kakai hano catering a lot. Pe ono whareata. O tau whakapoponga ki ngai mea keke. Hange koe tau pepe hange koe ngai mea whaiki. Tau pepe hange koe birthday. Hange koe ngai kātoanga keke. Koe mea whakaloto, mea whakakommunity. Koe hapea mea koe ia. Koe tau tolokon koe I o moto Pasifiki. O ku iloa koe tau whakataha koe ki a whahinga mea oua. Ka wai tau pepe mea whaiki. Koe tau lahi atu. Pea koe ai o ku kauai ho tau ka inga Pasifiki I ho sia ko ia I COVID-19 o ke tokanga ki nei Meri o ko nauhanga o mai ki tau wakai ki ai Meri.
Kore peke o whamalumalo ate ngai whatapo tau pe whawhaki I ngaluea pe me waale te o Vake Tali Folau pe me Seattle, Washington ka koe Voice of Seattle, Voice of Tonga. Pea ka tā mua ki o kau atu I whatohia o e whataha e whiawhi koe ni. Koe polokalama koe ni, kole pe mua ke mo share te tau ngai polokalama. Koe uhinga hono whakahoko ma kehi e ngai polokalama koe ni me Seattle. Koe uhina oku papaanga e nia e he county o Seattle, o King County Seattle. Pea tawhaaki koe ia o tau pepe koe patungawe mo uia koe a Seattle. Oku nau papaanga ai ngai polokalama koe ni. Pea ni whai e whipotana no aki pea mo e county ko ia o Seattle. O lawai ke o mai ai kakai ke whai ha whipotala no aki mo ki nau tolu. Te kau aki mo COVID-19 I King County I Seattle. Pea ko ia mau inga pito ke whakawhi mai ho tau ka inga ko ia I Seattle. Ke tau lawa o whakahoko ai polokalama koe ni. Pea ke mo mea mai ai ke ngai whakamatala mahino e o mai pia me ho o mo pure anga whakakolo koe o mo whakapai ai. Ko tui koe ngai mea mau inga tahaya o ku hoko pe ai polokalama koe ni koe whakawhihoko taki anga o ku ke nofo I King County Seattle pia mo pure anga whakakolo koe o Seattle ka mafo ki ngai pot ngawe a tau te whito ki ta whaaki koe o mo ui lelei. Pea koe ia koe tō taha koe ia te o ke whai e whipotara no aki mo ia I he ho atani, pataa e whiawhi koe ni, koe ko Naisha Williams. Ko Naisha Williams o mahono ma I public health. Mahono master I public health e tuunga whakaako. pea i gai ngatai, ka akune lolotonga whakahoko whatongia ki Public Health Seattle King County, taluka me September e tau kōsi. Ko tāko ni okune osi mateu pea okune whakahoko ngai whatongia ke ia community ko ia o Seattle, ko King County. Okune whakahoko ngai yako, o ngai outreach program, pe ko ngai tala noa pe mo ngai yako ki he kakai ko ia o Seattle, King County Seattle, whika waki pe mo COVID-19. Okune ngāwe, ko ene tau kei ngāwe, okune tana ne tau kei ngāwe I he behavioral health. Ko mo uilelei, ko ulunganga tangata mo uilelei. Ko tui ke whakatonga o whitahaya te uhanga, te ulawa ke o atu maaki mō tolu. Pea kai ngatai, ka gai foki a ene whinga aki vāo au pito as epidemiology. Aia koe kakai koe ni, ko kinau tolu, koe tawhaaki ia o a medicine, pe koe ngai mea whakawhaito o koe I Seattle, ko kinau tolu, kinau toka ngai.
Ko tui koe ni kua slawa mai ki langa.
Koia, kuke hao kai toki. Koia kune toka ngai, pe kune toka ngai kina, ai ngai tawhakoia hange koe distribution or control of diseases and other factors relating to health. Aia koe tau polo kalama koe ni, mo tau tari koe ia naisha, te tau whakalele whakapalangi, koe ngai tala noa e whakalele whakapalangi, ka te mau whenga ho mau lele I taha, ke mau hanga o whakatonga, I ange pe to o me alalahi pe, e koe tui, koe tonga kotoa pe, I heni, oku I kai, ke oku mahino au pito rea whapalangi ia.
Of course.
Pea koe te mautoto o mea lalai pe te ria na mauto I whakatonga e mauto o mauto.
Pea o ka pau o ku ke kai ke mahino ka koe I he lea whapapalangi pa hiki honi ma kai translate atu hao ki fo I video ia makehepe ia mao. He ka meseini e. Ia e hanga meseini o whatonga I atu. I he taim te tau pe meseini o ku neongo e whaifatongia ha whahinga mea wha community, ka heke te aha tahaia e ilo lele yange ka koe kau lōkoro. Aia I anga hu wakai atu e meseini, ko koia o ke kau koe kau lōkoro, pe he ngatai, ko tui o ke mei, ke upe o ke ilo kotoa, ka ko ilo ke mei ilo e koia, ai mea kotoa I Siatona. Tata te whita ki King County.
Mahalo sai ke tau kamata, ki mua ke tau kamata. I would like to welcome you to Naisha Williams.
Hi Naisha.
And,
nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for making the time to be with us in this radio program for the Tongan community in King County, Seattle, as well as the Pacific Islanders who's watching and listening to us. And we really appreciate that.
Sure do.
Absolutely.
We are here. Yeah, we're here to connect you and the health department of King County and Seattle to our community in King County. And we are very, very happy. We're honored that you make the time to be with us today. I also see that Christina is in the Zoom. Christina, I also welcome you and thank you so much for making the connection to make today's program happen.
Yes.
I know Christina is from the media department of King County Health Department, and we are very, very, very happy. My name is Emily. I'm the one that email you most of the time and bother you.
Yes.
And
I'm Sione, you can call it. Sione in Tonga, John in English, Juan in Spanish. So pick one and call me, however way you want to call me. Isn't that cool?
And we here in San Francisco, but we also have our local, we are streaming from our local station from Seattle, from King County, Seattle. And Melisane is here with us too. She's our
host.
She's the boss.
And she's the boss over there. So, I just finished telling her, regardless of how we interconnect, but she's local. She knows everything. She knows everything about Seattle. So
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I will say I am honored to be here as well.
Okay.
My name is Naisha Williams, and at Seattle Public Health, King County, I am serving as the lead for COVID vaccination and BIPOC communities, which is an acronym for Black, Indigenous, People of Color. And my team is out of Community Mitigation and Recovery, also referred to as Community Partnerships. And then I did hear, Emily, you're in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Both of us from
Both of you. Okay.
main
So
state of San Francisco.
I am a Seattle girl, but I'm also a Navy brat. So, you know, I was born in Seattle, but I would say, I think around second grade, I'm 35 for reference. So in the 90s, I moved to Alameda, California. So I know a little bit about the area, and I lived there for about 5 to 6 years. So lovely, love San Francisco.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time there in Seattle. You know, of course, we kind of travel back and forth, but because of the COVID-19 kind of keep us anger here in San Francisco for now. After that, we would have been there with this program going on in Seattle. And then the same token that we see the need to some sort of a awareness to the community, how serious the situation is, even though some do aware of it, some don't. But I'll let Emily lead us, or you can lead us to where we want to do the discussion.
All right.
Thank you.
And Emily, let me know if there's any other emerging information. But I wanted to start out with just giving a little bit of information about the case count. I would like to talk about how the vaccine works. And then I did want to go into talking about vaccine availability. And then I know I have a little bit of information that I can share out and probably follow up with resources for viewers. However, I was curious to learn more about some of the resources, you know, viewers are into, or listeners, I should say. You kind of get it intertwined with Zoom.
That's right. Yes.
Yes. But I'm what I'm saying is I'm very interested in hearing, and you know, what are some of the needs and resources, and you know, whatever information I don't have, I would love to follow up and provide, you know, more information about resources. I believe I'm scheduled to be here next week as well. So, you know, providing that insight, and then I can come back with like a pretty hearty list of different resources. And then, you know, I guess I'm planning future content here, but
it's okay.
Resources, I'm a planner. You know, we can have like a pretty good discussion next week about, you know, some of the resources available and try to get people pretty connected. So does that sound pretty good?
Yes. Emily?
Yeah.
Alrighty, absolutely. So I first kind of want to talk about, you know, how the vaccine works. Just to give a quick overview, vaccine essentially, you know, it helps our body, you know, develop immunity to the virus that causes COVID-19. One thing about this vaccine is that when you get the vaccine, you know, your immune system makes antibodies and other infection fighting cells that can protect you, you know, from the virus. It does not cause COVID-19 infection itself. You know, I've heard that concern before. Again, vaccines essentially just teach our bodies how to make the antibodies, you know, to create, you know, those other, and also those other fighting cells. So we're basically teaching our body how to fight off the virus. And so the vaccine with this mRNA technology means that, and mRNA, you know, we think about anatomy class, you know, the DNA, and, you know, just to walk down memory lane with that one and, you know, biology. But mRNA, you know, you think about DNA, the double helix, you know, that mRNA basically is transcription. So it sends the code. It doesn't alter our DNA, right? So thinking about that in the concept of vaccine, it does, because of this mRNA technology, there is no inactive virus contained within the vaccine. And so this technology, although is kind of new to be used in vaccine, it has been around for several decades. I often get questions, you know, about, you know, how the vaccine was able to be developed so quickly. Funding is a big part of that, but also having that technology and capacity, you know, it's also very reminiscent of a global effort. One of the things we're doing is we are developing a digital newsletter. We also, in this newsletter, and it's still in development at the moment. But in this newsletter, we do want to highlight how the vaccine works, and also, you know, talk about mRNA technology. And also we want to talk about the clinical trial phases, because people, you know, when we talk about, you know, how quickly the vaccine was developed, it was approved for emergency use, but we didn't skip any steps throughout the clinical trial phases. So it still went through that rigorous, you know, those rigorous trials to gain approval. So I think it would be good to illuminate for people, you know, what happens during those phases in our newsletter that, you know, we're developing with our public health team, and also highlight, you know, the diversity in the clinical trials, because I think, you know, communities of color, you know, want to see where they fit in. And so those are the things we're doing, is gathering that data from Pfizer and Moderna about their participants in the clinical trials, and, you know, wanting to make that widely available to the public. And also, the vaccine does not have any preservatives in it. There are no animal products. We get that question a lot, you know, for faith-based communities, just no pork. There's no microchips or any foreign objects. It's a common question. You chuckle, but it's a common question. And so I have to say it, you know, and I mean, I think that question arrives a lot, you know, due to, you know, mistrust in the government, and also because of, you know, experimentation and, you know, the darker side of history, you know, when it comes to people of color in the medical community. So I always answer that question head on, like, no, it doesn't contain that. Also important to know, eggs, because, you know, egg allergy is common, and that's something that we also want to make people aware of, because, you know, people with egg allergies, a lot of, you know, vaccines are produced using egg products to some extent. And so making sure people who would potentially have that allergen are aware that it's not in the vaccine. And also no human fetal tissue or anything.
Naisha.
Yes.
Naisha, before you go on to the allergies part,
Yes.
I have this minute to
Kind of
translate it
in a
into
sense.
our
So
language. I'll
take
take the
yes,
main thing,
absolutely.
and then I'll translate it, then we go on to the allergy part of the vaccine.
Absolutely.
We will try to translate it. But you explain in a very simple form, and it's easy to understand. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes.
Hoek mo kai nga mo mi mai I he pa nga Vake Tali Folau. Ko e whamatala ko ni ne ulak o mai in Naisha. Ko e whamatala whikau aki pia mo huhu malui. Mo ngā aue a huhu malui ki ho tau sino. O kune pehe, o atu pen whaka toto me lalai. ko ngā koe whatongia huhu malu I, ko ne alu koe ko tau sino, o ku ne hanga o a koi. Mako whi lea ia koe na ne ngai aki. O ku ne hanga a koi a ho tau immune system, ke ne lava o whakawhepaki a COVID-19 virus, pe koe coronavirus. Koe coronavirus, Aia koe whatongia ia o vaccine, pe koe huhu malu I, ke ne hanga o a koi a ho tau immune system, pe koe mara e tau koe ho tau sino, ke ne lava o tau I a COVID, a coronavirus o tamatei. Ko hinga koe ki mua, na tau lawe ki mua, whekau aki pia moe, koe vaccine, o ulaki huhu, o skua patak huho noa. Ulaki huhu, pesete ni manoa. A ene effective. Koe whatongia lewa koe, pesete ni manoa. Ai koe whatongia lewa koe, ulaki huhu, o kune a koe a hotau immune system, kau kai ke pehe, ke osi pefo I huhu ko ia, pea osi poto immune system ia, o ne lava ia o tamate e COVID-19, coronavirus. Aia osi fo I huhu ko ia, huhu honoa, pea e tau to pehe rewa, kua qualify pesete te au, pea kua mao e mata I tohi a hotau immune system, ke ne hanga o lava o tau I COVID-19. Aia o mei koe palo palema koe o koko, ko tau immune system o te keke nei lava ia I lo I he taimini. Ko hana ia whonga te uhanga o tau I ai coronavirus. Ko huhu pe koe ai whangaki I vaccine pe koe huhu malo I, ko hono whatongi a ke ne a koi a ho tau immune system ke ne lava o tau I ai COVID-19 coronavirus.
I he taim te tau whokulawe ki he maho inga ko ia ke mo mahi noi ai huhu malu ko ni me Pfizer ka pe fo ke mo tena o hange ko ngai fa matala la he pute hui nga ka kai ni pe whelawe I mo fa hinga ke mikare pe ha me ko o me loto hange ko pe ka kau e foi mo ai ngai me fa natula una hanga tana ki he me ko ni o ko whakakato koe pe hoko koe vaccine, o koe whihu e whainga ni rang wa microchip I loto e mea ko a kita. O koe ia ngai mea pe, ko ngai mea no molo pe ni, ngai whaito o ku now come up with ai mo te nā mai whaita I he tūkunga ko ia o ki ai a fuwhi ma viviri ko ia hange pe ko mō mea I. Te matoto la he pe ka tuku, ke o fuwhi ma abito a hono taimi mo mea o vai mai. Go ahead, nice.
Yeah, tuke ka pau mele seini, ka pau ke hawhia tāna ki mai, te ke lava pe hu mai mele seini, yeah?
Go ahead, Naisha.
Thank you, Naisha.
Absolutely. I think one other way to think about it, and just vaccines in general, it's basically just, if you think about, what our bodies do, the inner workings, and how we develop those antibodies to fight off a virus, similar, when you get the flu vaccine, although this vaccine it differs from the flu vaccine because it's made through mRNA, but overall concept, it's equipping your body with the tools in the arsenal to fight off the virus. So once it strengthens that immunity, your body can recognize, if it comes into contact and it's like already built up.
So it's more like the chemical, the vaccine boost all the little soldiers to fight.
That's right. That's how I explain it. That's how I explain it, when I talk about flu vaccine, when I've done so previously with my children's school and held assemblies. Yes, exactly. It's basically, if you want to think of it that way, just imagine preparing for combat and training. And, the vaccine essentially is giving you insight into the opposing side. So now that, the vaccine is telling you, how they're going to strategize against you, your body basically has tools now and is ready to fight. And when it, recognize or comes into any contact with, the virus, it, sees and says, I know what to do. Right?
Right, exactly.
Definitely great analogy. Absolutely. That's how I explain it all the time to the middle.
So we all need the vaccine to combat COVID-19. And then a lot of people have questions, but I'll let you finish first before I do any questions. Thank you.
Of course, of course. And so I just wanted to give a quick overview, of the case count. So as of January 4th, roughly 2.6% of confirmed COVID-19 cases in King County were regarded in a Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander populations. So that accounts for about, 1,230 cases.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we definitely want to spread the word about the safety of the vaccine. And then again, the benefit, it helps protect you by essentially, teaching your body's immune system how to fight. So if we're talking about it in combat strategy, it's like basic training with the immunity boost.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then whenever Melissaini, you have a chance to, or you can play the.
If you have any question, again, I'm just going to emphasize it in Tongan again.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Kuya hoek mo ka inga ko uhinga ko o polokalama ko ya o atani hange ko talanoa ko ni ke vaccine. O ku hange ko lau ko o mai to ta ko ni naisha. Ko vaccine o hange pe hane hu o to hanga o to train pe tene to hanga to ya ko I make he ange ai so ti ale o hota o sino ko inga ke ne lava o whakatokanga I ulaki, whakatokanga e vailasi te mo ko mai ai koto sino, pia ne lava lewa o tau I o tamate I e whanki vailasi. Aia koe uhinga maho I ngai, ke mo ofa mai, koe ka ua te vailasi kia te ko, ai vaccine ka te koe, ia ke take it. Oa te tau whanoko te tau kia ngai mea koe o koko whaiono tala noa I ngai ahoni, o ku maho I ngai ia, ke tau hanga o tari e vaccine koe ni, I taimi wā mai ke tau sino. Naisa, you mentioned that 2.6% of COVID-19 cases there in Seattle is national Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders.
Right.
And that's a total of around 1,230. Not only that, but what we have found out too, that the rate of the COVID-19 spreading in the Pacific Islanders are faster than any other race. It's the fastest, especially in Seattle, in Washington,
San
Francisco, or
Los
California, and in where else? Salt Lake City, or Salt Lake City, Utah, and it's like 5 other Hawaii. And like 5 other states. So in Seattle, when I see that graph, that's really it's kind of overwhelming, It's shocking. But when we look at it and people start to discuss why is the COVID-19 spreading in the Pacific Islanders, it's faster than any other races, then it comes down to our culture. In the way we are,
we do things.
And the way we do things, and not on that's the first. That's one thing. The second thing is come back to how we stay in the house. There are like 2 to 3 families in one house, and add on to that is it's very high number of people that have obesity. Those chronic disease, diabetics, high blood pressure, those 3, and you can see us, we are really, really big,
Or majority of us have those common.
Yes, because of our diet. Our diet is more into meat than anything else. Yeah. So those are the problems, some of the factors that contributed to the high, to the what you call rapid or
underlying condition that
underlying conditions which contributes to the high prevalence within the community.
Yeah,
and the average from start age 40 and on, and I think when you start hit that age, pretty much a lot of us, a high percentage of us, do have that.
Yeah, and those are the factors that are affecting the same in these states that I mentioned, and especially in Washington, it is higher than any other states, even though we are minority. You know, we have a very small percentage of the population over there.
Go ahead.
We also realized that I was in a meeting with the Pacific Island Community Association in Washington on Tuesday this week. We also have realized this thing. Most of our elderlies don't use a website or Facebook, or age start from 50 up. Yeah, we don't go into the internet and go through to look for information over there. We listen to our program, the radio, and we just listen to others talking about it. So it's some kind of barriers between all the information that you guys provide and the community. It's a big gap, and this is one way of us trying to connect the local government and the community in King County.
Especially the middle-aged and the older folks, okay? The old days, we used to watch TV. Everybody gather together and sit down in the evening, have a nice dinner, and then watch TV. Nobody do that these days now. Everybody's busy, and everybody's pushing their phone, whatever they're doing, either on Facebook or on our radio, because that's how we broadcast. But that's things are different in the 80s and what's going on now. And what happened is a lot of people spend those time in these different social network or whatever they do. For some reason, that information is not really getting into them, that we wanted to reach out to at least explain the basic and how we try to survive by just following certain rules, like the information that we already currently share. Emily?
Yeah, and we just want to give you some info about how, Nisha, how things are and how we feel nowadays with this COVID-19. And I think that will help you with the next program, what kind of information, what kind of program that we're going to do next week. There's one thing is the language, the barrier, the language. Maybe out of all the states, only Seattle that I can see there is a Tongan version of everything in there, and I applaud Seattle so much. Here in California, Los Angeles is the most, maybe we can say that's the epidemic now in Los Angeles County. I haven't seen anything translated to our language. Maybe there is, but it's not enough for everybody. The only problem, or the only thing here that I see, is the first time for me to see all this information that Christina sent to me. And I wonder how many Tongan over there that haven't, in Washington, that haven't got that information, Right now, starting from, we started doing that last month when we started off with the project. So we will continue on with those information that you provide in Tongan to give to our Tongan community. Because what happened now, back in July, maybe when the pandemic starts around July, then we start hearing people, I heard, one Tongan died in Salt Lake City. One Tongan died in Bay Area or from coronavirus. Maybe once a week. But when the days come last week from December up to today, we hear that Tongan almost every day. There's one Tongan die every day.
That's the sad part.
From Texas, and how the community is too small that we know everybody else's business, and it's all over the Facebook. So that's the what happened now, and we still are trying to figure out what will be the best way to take those awareness. Before we have this radio station, we usually use the church leaders to go through them to the community. But you know what happened now?
To send a message.
It's not really that matter anymore, because most people are listening to their Facebook, and
Even when they go to church, they're doing Facebook.
Well, I was going to interject and say you can watch church on Facebook Live.
So they don't really, we since the pandemic, we do program every day about the pandemic. And even we get the church leaders in San Francisco, and they do program on Saturday, 1 hour every Saturday.
Yeah, and we don't want to give up, because even if we save one life, it meant a lot, and because of the importance of stay safe, and let's go through this together, and hunker down until this pandemic is over. But it seems like it's kind of hard to get into a lot of people, because they already made up their mind where they need to go, and all this kind of stuff, and go about their business because they have to do so. A lot of our, in our culture, we have certain applications for a lot of different things, whether it's church or like funeral, for example, when somebody passed away, family members have a certain application to the person who passed away. And because of that, sometimes in our culture, it's like you almost 100% you gotta go, especially the immediate family. And it's not like other funeral here in America, maybe 1 or 2 show up. But when Tongan have a funeral, or any Pacific Islanders, 99% everyone show up by hundreds. And because of that, we're trying to communicate with our, not only we have programs with our church leaders, but also program with communities, even non-profit organizations, invite them in, so we can try to keep sending the message, whoever and however it gets to them. And I think that's the main goal for us, to share that information. And not only that, all the information from Seattle County on regards to the help for the people, regardless of their status, because we have these stimulus packets, and some people are not fortunate to have it. People need help as far as like groceries and help with their rent. We all know that, but a lot of them are afraid to come and say, hey, I need it, or whatever it is. And that's the kind of people we're trying to reach out to them.
And I thank you, because that is a really large charge within itself. And so, I mean, before I continue on discussing vaccine, I guess, this is such a rich discussion. I guess my question would be, what do you think we can do more at, Public Health Seattle, King County, to improve our communication, so that we can get this information about the vaccine and, other resources out to the community?
That's a good question. And Emily can jump in on Melissa anytime. That's a good question. As we all know how people...
Before we continue on, I would like to translate the question.
Emily,
sorry,
please. Yeah, go ahead.
Before we continue on, I would like to translate your question to the Tongan, so that anybody here that listens can give us also their ideas on, okay. Ahoik magainga ko lavei pe motor ko mo fanongo mai ko fehu I maho inga ne matala noa foki ke ngahi palopalema o kuhoko pika akma COVID-19 hange ko ni kumahina foki ya ko kakai o Pasifiki kawai hotau kakai I Amerikani o ku vave tahai ai mafola COVID-19 o whakawhiha naki ki atoi matakari I Amerikani highest tataupe te fito ki Washington, ko Portland, tatau pa mo California, mga state kehepe. Pea mautala noai ke uhinga koe o ku pehe ai, o ku vave ai mafola ai COVID-19 I o tau matakari. Ko unga ko tau unganga whawhona, ko pau ke tau o da tō ke tau putu, ko pau ke tau o da tōlo uma ke tau mātua, ko pau ke tau o da tō ke ngai, ko pau ke tau o whai tau whanau, ke tau lau da tō itinaya na mafi lo ko tau tol ko pau ke tau nofo toko family ua pe tol pe fa i a api peta ai ga tahanga palpalema ni o ko ke tau o ko ke tau va ofi ki tau toria mo e tau local government hange ko kalasko ka tama ko no ma tala no he tai mini tahaya palpalema kono wa ko lea talo no mai ai noti ko ni a honi na o mai ai e na tolu ai foi whakatonga, koe maha ka pēs mahalo o kua o mi hongo fulu. Kono whakatonga I kotoa ai ngai tu uni Seattle, King County ki he COVID-19.
Right.
Ko fuafuataimian ke sio ai ki ai. Koe whehui, ko hain, koe toko whiha nei ka kai tonga I Seattle, ko wa uki ai information koe ni. Ko toko whiha nei ka kai I Seattle ku nau ilo, ai whaunga ke nau huhu vaccine ai. Ko toko whia nei ka kai I Seattle, ka kai tonga ni tau tānoa kei. O ku nau ilo, e mao e tokoni, pia me ngai mea ke koe ni. Ko toko whiha nei. Aia koe whehu I koe ni, a naisha koe ni o mai. O kuke pehe a nau, ko tui ko a nau, neongo o kui kai ke nofo I King County, ka kohono api o kui King County. Koe hana e mea to ton ke nau whai, koe uhi, ke toi vāo whiange vāwhengai aki, o ki mō tolu ka inga tonga mo ka kai o te Pasifiki, pea mo e county, pe koe pure anga whakakolo ko ia o mō malumalu ai. O ke pehe, koe hae mea to ton ke nau whai. Translate ngai ngai whakakaukau, koe nā mai o lea mai he lea tio, hange koe mea koe no koko e ahoni. Koe hae nau mea to ton ke nau whai, pea ko whakaamu pe te mo lava o tokoni mai o ek mo kainga. Ko koe o whai kia e ngāwe. Nofo pe koe o whakakaukau kia te koe I ho nofo koe I ho mō ngahi local government pe ko o mō ngahi county o ke malumalu ai. Koe hana e mea koe pehe to ton ke whai he county ka koe uhi kai whakasisi o no wesia ki tau tohe COVID-19. We need to be closer.
Okay.
E niu pa ko mō tolu te mohanga whotu mai e whakaukau koe hae whaunga te tau toe wāo whiange ai. Koe hae whaunga te tau toe wāo whiange ai pia moe moho tau pure anga whakakolo.
Sorry. Malo, Emily. Thank you, Emily. And I think you brought a very, very, very good question because I have to go back. I have to go back when we start census. Okay, I can go back 10 years if I need to, but I'm just gonna go back as far as okay. How important to understand and why it's important that we have to do the census. And the reason why I'm going back to this because we, Emily and I joined in to a lot of other nonprofit organization meeting. And when we get in, we listen to how the meeting was held. And boy, there was a lot of information, good information. You know how everybody do their presentation and everything is all details down to almost everything. And then I said to myself, and you have to understand where I'm coming from because we are media, we are radio station. This is what we do to broadcast to the people. But my question at that time in that meeting, I said to myself, okay, I wish I can have that information so I can share it with my people. But you guys got the information. Where do you guys publish all these findings so we can figure out how to get that information out? Do you see where I'm coming from, Nisa?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we need to do, share information, because if you are counting on TV, a lot of people ask me, how come, because I said to myself, for 40 years living here in this country, or over 40 years, okay, when it comes to census, the question is, did I ever register myself to be on the census? No. The reason why, and a lot of people ask me, even Emily asked me why, and I said, because it would just fly through the TV does not explain me the importance of census and what is involved in census. Do you get the idea where I'm coming from, Nisa?
I absolutely do. I think a lot of people usually see the census as the government being nosy. A lot of times, and I know it's improved, over the years with the outreach around that.
Right.
It's important to know, when you participate in the census, that's how we can, it gives us the insight to help with determining funding and, resources. And so you are absolutely right. That is a way to get communities on the map. Highlight.
And I
Let
think
us see who's
that's
where.
why Emily was pushing for you or anybody from King County to join it.
Yes.
And please share the information. Maybe there's information we don't know that you guys need to help us know what it is.
The more we know, the more we can do, right?
There you go.
We don't know what we don't know. So thank you for promoting that. Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And it comes back, Naisha, like when Sione was mentioning the census.
I'm just using that as an example, but
census?
definitely concentrating on COVID-19 to save as much
that
life.
will be reflect on what's happening now with the COVID-19. That's definitely reflect on what's going on now with the Pacific Islanders with the COVID-19. With the census, we do the awareness program. The first time that we do the awareness program with the census is we asking the question, what is census? Did you do census 10 years ago? And they said, no. And then, why? Because I didn't know. That's the first thing that comes to my mind when we're doing this. Most or some of us don't know and we don't care.
And most of our older folks did not do so.
And coming to the election is worst, Why don't you go vote? Because I don't know. I don't know what that had the impact on my life and my personal life and the table and the food on my table. Come back to COVID-19.
Yes.
It's the same thing that's happening in every other things around there. So people treat like COVID-19 like the census. Doesn't matter. So they just explain it on the TV. It's the same cap that they have with every other things. You know what I mean? So coming back to your question, question is what can King County do so that they will be closer engagement to the Tongan and the Pacific Island community.
And then if anybody want to call, kai peta fieta mai telefoni, merseni kai peta ki fika ke lau ke nau tātu, tuku mai ai fika telefoni. I'm inviting anybody who have any questions they can call in if they can.
I will add.
You can ask on Facebook and then we relay the questions.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to add, this is a very rich discussion, especially when we're thinking about COVID and the census, because again, the census gives us an insight of, resources needed and, population in the community. So now when we, shift gears now to what's going on with COVID, what does having that information beforehand, it can help us better, determine how to allocate resources, what grants and response efforts are needed. So definitely. And then, this is really great. I did want to also emphasize, vaccine availability, because when you think about how the census definitely influences how we kind of those resources,
right?
And so I know there was one of the questions was about vaccine availability in terms of costs and whether you can access a vaccine if you're undocumented. So I did want to put that out there, and then we can loop back to the census. But I will say it was just released today. This is like, hot off the press update. So I want to get it to you that, for Public Health Seattle King County, we will also have our own King County and Seattle ran public health sites for the vaccine. Okay. Not require any proof of citizenship or documentation. It will not even be asked for. And vaccination will be free at the King County and Seattle sites. And when you think about the census, that helps us understand, how to better get in touch with the community and provide resources like this. It's also, in terms of opening up vaccination sites, we have better insight on how many sites need to be open and where our population is when we have that data. So thank you so much for
I'll let Emily
bringing that up.
part, especially for those that so they don't have to worry about their status if they do need to come in for vaccinate. Ai kono whanau beha o ikuma kainga o ko behe King County hataha beha o ko whia mau kene mau ai vaccine because whakarea taha hangi ha mati te wani ki taimi koe e whakangofua mai e meli ke vaccinate koe ki tau tolu o te tokanga koe ki ha ki ngai ta whaaki koe ia o ko ngofua beha pia koe ke whia mau ia ke
ke whia mau ia ke ia ha whaahinga ai ti pe koe pepa pe tai pepa pe o ku ke mei pepa pe o ku na expire pepa o tau pe ko having immigration status o ke mao o ata pe ke kau ko i vaccination pe now te e ngai site ke i King County Seattle pakatoka nga yang update e whahoka te mele te o Vake Tali Folau te nau foto a ngai site ke i taimi ko e available ai ko ai vaccine ke toenga ko ia o kakai o nga ke whakawhai ngofua ke modolu ka inga ko ia i King County Seattle ke mo ma vaccination as soon as possible ko ia mamata ma mai pe ke polkalama ko ia medicine ko uhi tene o atu ai ngahi whakaiki ki mo updating information ko tau ma o ni ka tama ko ni pe ko ia ko pau ke nau
Seattle is a big county according to the information I have is average up to 230 something million people in this county. And it seems like to me, just when we talk about big county, they have big programs that help community in so many ways. And based on what have been going on so far, what we learned, Nisha, we learn about certain sad story, especially for those they are not, they don't have their paper here in the United States. And even some people are afraid, even though they got sick with COVID-19, they are afraid to check in because it may ruin their status in this country by taking them back or whatever they believe in. But there is certain fear within the community to take that step to go in to the hospital, especially when they are very sick. And a lot of people make decisions just to sit at home and take chances. But when they can't physically handle it, then they rush back to the hospital, but it's too late. And that's the kind of story we're trying to avoid.
Absolutely. And so that's why we're doing as much as we can. And even, getting in, what I call eye level, with community to see what is needed, because there's no one size fit
all.
Just as you just talked about, kind of the differences in generations and how, Facebook generation versus TV generation,
Exactly.
And so we just really want to communicate to people, educate them about the vaccine. We want to, empower people by equipping them with that information so that they can make, informed choices, right? And so we just want to tell everyone, what's in the vaccine, make everyone understand to the best of our capacity that it's safe. There are possible side effects. There's headache, sore arm, fatigue, and possibly a fever for a day or two, but the side effects are short-lived. And the side effects, in comparison to the lives that we are losing.
Exactly.
And so I think as, COVID has continued on, we've all been touched by it in some way, right? And so we just want to really, and I've been personally, touched by COVID. I had a child with COVID back in February. you know, and, you know, gratefully she recovered. But, you know, not to get too personal, that was my 4-year-old. However, you know, my mother, who is she was working as an outreach counselor with YWCA here, nonprofit organization here. Well, she was in Everett, Washington, which is a little suburb, not too far from Seattle, about 45 minutes out. But, you know, she told me, you know, about a client who lost a child similar to my daughter's age. And so, you know, just thinking about, you know, being sick. And at that time, we didn't have the information that we had for, you know, to get that out into the community. And
right.
Around that time, you know, it was still being told that it's not that bad in children, you know, all the misinformation that's going out. And I mean, in spite of my child getting sick, I feel grateful because I was a mother who was able to bring my child home. But just think about all of the people who don't have that benefit of bringing their loved ones home. And, you know, we have to consider the disconnect it even causes. You know, when you have a loved one who goes into the hospital for COVID, you can't visit them.
Right.
Do you really want to be in a position where you can't even, you know, say that goodbye, you know, from losing a relative? I've done listening sessions, and I mean, there's so many stories, and it's just really, really heart-wrenching to just think about, you know, all the loved ones and friends we lost. And, you know, although this is, you know, a stressful time in terms of having to social distance, you know, having to do things like this virtually, right?
Right, exactly.
The trade-off is safety. Continuing to wear those masks, continuing to wash your hands, social distancing, you know, limiting those gatherings, avoiding them if you can, you know. I mean, it's like COVID has put us in a position where we're so close, but yet so far away. And I know it's hard. You know, I'm a mom with 4 kids Zooming, you know, while I'm working, you know.
And not only that, we all know.
It's stressful,
Right.
but the trade-off is safety. And the only way we can flatten the curve is to, you know, to really, really practice those safety precautions, the social distancing, you know, wearing your mask or your face covering, washing your hands, you know, not participating in those large gatherings. You know, we have to do as much as we can, you know, for safety, and we have to get that education out. And I think I'm a firm believer in transparency, and I think people will understand, you know, more so how serious COVID is and how important a vaccine is if we find multiple ways to just communicate with the community.
That's very true. And between you and all of us that we pretty much follow the COVID-19, we all know or knew that the leading cause of COVID-19 is based on the family gathering and social gathering. And I think that's why a lot of people got infected. And I think that's one of the main key thing that we keep using every day in this radio station is awareness, and not only to follow up with the update on vaccine as well as the situation with the COVID-19. And I think that's a part of us media to play and make sure that we get out to the community. But in the same token, to continue our conversation here, I think our station needs as much information from you guys to share with us the latest almost every day if we need to, via email or whatnot, so we can communicate that back to our Pacific Islanders or the Tongan community as much as we can. We do have a Pacific station as well. I turn it on so because I knew every time we do a program in English, anybody from the Pacific Island can hear it, and hope they can hear our voice today of what we are sharing. but I'll get back to you because I know you have a lot prepared for us.
Well, we still have next week, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
So
but
I was going to say.
yeah, but we have this question towards the end of the program. We still have your question hanging in there.
Okay.
What can you do? What can King County, Seattle can do to make things to be a little bit closer to the Tongan and the Pacific Islander community? And I think those are things that we need to work on it because that will be the baseline of how you allocated the resources. Since I think we make a little bit improvement on the census compared to 10 years ago. People start doing the census because that's like you said. But also we remember that we are a very insignificant population back there, and that's why you have that fund allocated to do all this program because of the inequality of the resources distribution in terms of us and our Pacific Islanders, and even when you come to Tongans, I think it's 0.1% of the population of the Tongan population compared to Seattle County. But even that, we still understand that we need to step up too. Yeah, we really need to step up too. Not only that you step down, so we can meet halfway. and one of the challenges that we have, remember that we don't have any a member or any representative to your council or to the council or the village council or something like that. But I think those are the things that we need to work on it so we can get even the local governance of the Tongan community in Seattle needs to a little bit empower a little bit more so we can, you know, when we meet and we can kind of meet halfway. So next week we will continue on with the basic information, and not only that, but maybe somebody will come up before our next program and we will and you know, give us suggestion, or maybe you guys can do this. There will be there will be better relationship in terms of relationship of the local government and the community, and the Tongan community and the Pacific Islanders community. Because after this program, we will continue on with that. We will discuss it in today. Our language with the rest of the listeners, what we talk about, what are their suggestions, and then I'll report it to you in Catherine and Christina, and then we'll go from there. So I think we will better prepare and a little narrow down our discussion to what they need and what they think that we should do, so you know, make things better. That sounds good, Nisha?
That sounds good. And I want to say no population is insignificant. And
thank you.
Really definitely not. You know, we are doing our best. You know, this past summer, racism was declared a public health crisis. And we are doing everything we can, you know, to improve equity and get in touch with the community. And that's why I ask you, what can we do instead of presuming that we know what to do? You know, you don't know what you don't know. And so thank you for this insightful, you know, discussion. It gives me a lot to think about how we can better connect as well. We'll meet you halfway. And then when I come in next week, I'll talk about the guidance for the different phases, you know, so we know, you know, who's up next in line is what we basically call it. And then I will talk about a program that we have developed called Phase Finder, which also helps people learn where they can go to access the vaccine. So that to you next week.
A really quick question.
I will think about this discussion as well.
Yeah, I want to ask you a really quick question. How soon, because I've seen other states, they start on maybe phase 3 or phase 4, that they allow start to vaccinate people older folks and or not. How soon are you guys kind of close to that yet or not yet?
We're still in phase 1A.
Okay, you guys on Facebook.
Yeah, so next week I will bring the chart because I know we're at time. So I will bring the chart and I'll break down the different phases and what that means because it's really, really detailed. It was new guidance that was just released this week. And we can go over all the phases and who falls into those categories. And then we can talk more about the phase finder program that kind of helps match people with some quick screening questions so people know their eligibility and where they fall in the category. And then also it links them to the available sites where they can go to get the vaccine. So we'll go into depth about that next week. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can say I don't know how much we appreciate King County for helping us out, not only to our radio station, but to also reach out to
We appreciate you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting me to your program, to your home. Thank you.
And, if you think of running away from this program, you're not running away.
Nope.
Whoever gonna come next, tell them there's another book. Is ready for that person as well.
Maybe they will suggest the next hour that we will teach you how to speak in Tongan. So don't be surprised.
I know. I said it sounds so much better.
By the end of these,
I was listening like it sounds so beautiful. Like give me a lesson, please do.
Yes. You're just tired of speaking Spanish, I think. But anyway, thank you very much.
You guys have a great weekend. Really thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and you have a good one. Have a good day, and thank you to your
too.
Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Kita hoka tu meliki ko tipe mahadita. Melesain tai mai mo ta foi fasi. Alo gai melesain. Tau tu ko ni ko tu ko anau kamata pe ke sipesipa to asi anau ko to ma anau sia ne ko firma ko fano pero tu mo firma pe ke fano kita to ki ba pe mau inga ko ia ai tu ko ke ai COVID-19 pe ko ia tai ma ta fasi ke tau ka fano ngo pe fa fe mai ke to lai ki nga ki tau ba i mau inga ko ia ai to ko ni me health
King County,
Seattle, public health, Seattle and King County. Malo pito mele, karau tu foki mai, malo.
mua la maria ho e ki pea lele ia i tonga kotape. O ku awat ki ai ai ui. Mo e whakau whatongi a koia o e hoa tā whalai te koia ka kohono a walu o Sanuali. Ko e tau taimi i he whainga maari e koini o si ai minite nima pea mei he whai whiawhi. Ka koine hokatotono pe ai nima. Te tau mawai rewa pea moau ka e aro rewa ai tau proklama. Whakahoko whatongia me ai ak nau tōru koia me Victorville, Los Angeles, me Semis po me e ka uma Lindsay po me e ke na whakahoko whatongia atu i he hoata koia o e whiawhia koe ni. Hala koe ko ngalahe o mō tōru nā mō hu mai o maua ai proklama koe ni. Ai proklama koia pe mo e tōtaha me he King County i he whainga ke tokoni ki ho tau kakai. Whikau aki ko ia pea mo e whainga ke whakasi isi i. Pe koe whainga ke malu i ki tau tōru. Pe mei he fumahaki whakaauha koe ni koe ko viti ai o ku tau lorotonga mo uai he ngahi aho ni. Pea koe wi koe whakatau no aki koe ne ngone whai i he tāna no whakapaparangi. Ka e whai pe he whainga ke whakatau lea pe ke mahino ke te mō tōru. Hangi koe me ana e lawe ki ai ai whiwhine ko ni ko nicer. Pea mei he public health koe ai Seattle King County. Na ane lawe ai o pehe. Koe kawia mea maho inga i he ene hanga whakahoko mai i he hoa tāni. Ne ai e ki pepana akusio ai i he taimi koe e auti mai ai ai huhu koe ni pako vaccine koe ni. Pea e ai pe hono ki tatongi hange haki kou pei nai. Ki he whaahinga koe o ku kai ke ai ha inchiwa. Ka i he hoa tāni o kou tui ko e kaueni ha ngahi whetara no aki mahino au pito pea taimi tatau pe o ku omihanga tonu eni pea mei he loto whare ko ia o e public health, Seattle Public Health pea mo e King County ai o ngongo ko eni ai a tene toki whakaiki ki mai ia i he wike kaha u ai ngahi wheitu ko ia e o mai ki ai ai huhu pea lawa ke tau alu ki ai ke huta e totongi a ki tau tolu. Ko wina aku si au i he pepa, ko i whainga kou inchiwa e sai. Ko i whainga kou ko i hanau inchiwa na e asi ai e ai beki i peimeni ai. Kau tau whakawhetai. Whakawhetai he hoa tā ko e niu tau whanongo to tonu me loto whare ko ia o e Seattle Public Health mo King County. O kuneo hanga he whiwhine koe nia whakamahina mai e ikai ke pehe ia. Aia i hono whakalea koe e taha. Mahalo pe e kai ke nana toe keke, whotunga keke ki naua mo e anga koe ai siwi koe o ki tau tau ke ko viti taha hiba. Kai ke whi maue pe kwe hao inchiua. Pe kuta e ai hao inchiua. Koe ki whie maue pe ku ke pepa he fufonuane pe ku ke tae pepa. Koe mea ku mahu inga ki he county, ke King County, ke malui, ke whakasi isi. Ai COVID. Aia koe wike kaha uia, paramesi e te whakako ai programa koe ni i he taimi tatau pe i he whalaite wike kaha u, pea mo e whiwhine koe ni na e pe e he wike kaha u e kau mai ki ai mo e tokitaa. Aia te nahanga rewa o mai ai ai whakaiki ki koe e ngahi whei tuu. Pea o atabe ka pau ke ngahi whei hui. Pea te mau teu teu pe ki ai. Koe ai o ku whia proklamani i he mauwhainga maari koe i he ho atani. Koe uhi ke tau whanongo to tonu ai. Mahalo e whotunga te tau pe ai huhu pea mo e whotunga koe ia o e sivi COVID. Pe ku ke pepa he whonuani pe i kai. Pe ko ke insure pe i kai e ke i lava pe. Ko e toe eni ke nauhanga o mai information ko ia. Ke tu whaki atu ka ki mautou ka inga whanongo. Ai ngai wheitu o e malawa ke tau alu ki ai o whaiho tau kuhu malo i. E marapa na mau whanongo pe ke ngai whakarea ko e whewhine. Koe koe e meri e, nei koe kau whake mena.
Ko ma fe Malaysia Malia.
O whanonga koe ke mo amnaki ke whehu i ke ai pe taimi ta tau pe tu ai whehu i hau e whakamatala. Ai ngahi side effect ki koe o e huhu. Ko hia ku iai ngahi tala noa tokua pe kuhange daily fia ki ta ia ki te alo huhu. He tala mai ko o ku huhu e pe a puke toko lahi ia.
O ko anga te pe Malaysia.
Ongo lele au pito au pito.
Ia te gi lave vave tu pe ki he mea ko o ke lave ko ki ai fika waki pe mo ina to pe ko o pe ai ko pe ko ku ma fa muy muy i he ai fa matala mai ko ia ni tu mai ko general information ni ai o na pe he a ko vaccine tu fakia tu ia i ga ngata pe fa ma gi men sein ka tu fakia tu ia hange ko e kaka ngai pharmacy pe a ko famatala ko ke ina na pe he e tipeni pe ia hange ko e fahinga e vaccinate na tolu he na office ko ia e na to eta pe ko administration fees e charge ia e to eta pe a mo nga hi fin tu pe he ka me ko to lahi me sein ka da fita farmaki ko hono vaccinate ko o kakai o kai ki totongia it's no fee whatsoever ka o kai ki na hanga from halaki o ka pau e charge ai office ko ni ka to eta administration fees ki me ko lave ko ki ai be kana de na
ko na o si whakaha e laisha ane nai
ki King County o
ko ia King County e kai ki to tongi pe ia ngai site ko ngai feitu e allocate ki ai vaccine e te mo leva of hoko ia kai ki to tongi kai ki to eke ha ho immigration status o ko mahino au pito ia o monu ia King County ia he tu e tai mini en pako tu ia e tau pe mo ngai county ke he o tau iai Kala pe ke tau mui ofi au pito ki he ngahi whamatala ko ia o mai. Ka o kukau ai polkalama ko e ni i he monu ia a King County ko lava kange ko mene lava ke a mele seini. Ko lava ke tau whanongo le lei pe me he loto whale o he health department ko ia o King County. Sai, ko mea ko whia hoko atu ki ai e mele seini o koe whaka amu ko hui tau te tau talanoa pe ki e tau polkalama ko ia ni tau toki whanongo a me King County Seattle Health Department.
O bau whainga maari e tai mi me sein, na uki ai hao ki pokalame au na steel teo. Kana wataan pe mili.
Ai a koe mea ko whaam ke tau wakai ki ai, hange koe whehu i koe anaisa. Ko hana e mea King County o te tonu ke ne whai, o te tonu ke nau whahoko, ke tau toe wā ofi ange. Koe palopalema koe o ku hoko, pe koe ngahi whakawhi ātungia i koe ia o koko ka te tau tolu tau community tonga. O tau fuu wā mama o pia moe. Koe local government ni ko ki nau tolu o ka ume ai ai ngahi le lei kotoa pe. Pe kai ke nau lava ki nau tolu ia o pe heso hange koe tau wakai koe tala noa anaisa. Koe ulu aki. O kai kini hanga e nau toria fu mahi no i koe hakoa e culture e whanua koe ni. Koe hakoa e ulunganga e whanua koe. Luckily, o tau mao e whiwhine koe ni a naisa, koe toko taha koe ni o guai o konga ene ngawe o ngawe ki ngahi ulunganga o e mo ui. Aia o whenapasia mo ene tio mai kene iloi, koe hana e ulunganga e tonga, how would we do things better with them? Koe haa whaunga e toi le leianga e mau whaifatongia ki he tonga, pa e tipenia e whakawhalala ia mei hene mahi noi aho tau ulunganga. Whehu ia neo te kei ke whehu ia i rak mōtou kau whanau le tio. Koe haa ho whakakaukau, te tau nofo pe ko whakakaukau ki ho local government pe ko ho puri anga whakakolo a au. Koe haa nei ha mea o te tonu ke nau whai ke tau toe wā ofiangi. Koe haa hangahi ngā ue. Koe hae whaunga ke tufaki mai ai ai ngahi whakamatala o kuke pehe e toe le leiangi. Whaunga ne taha una o mai koe ni. O kunau whakapaanga lewa re te o, ko hinga ke whakahoko mai ai, go through my challenge, o ku hu mai ai e nau ngai whakamatala o hua kakamoto. To ia ha whaonga o ku ke pehe e toi lele yang. Ko ha whanga ki activity, e lava ke te whakahoko he ka inga tonga, ko uhi ke whakaai ai tonga ko toa pe, ke nau huhu COVID-19 vaccine. Ko o se awe ngahi tala noa ke na ai hake lea whae ngai polo kalama e tau lama o pehe ka pau e huhu kita ia a huhu malui te ririu kita ko e ngeri hu whangai whatapu. Ko hanai ai mea o ke pehe o to tonu ke tau whai ko hui ke liliu e whangahinga mentality ko ia. Ke liliu e tau tō onga a e tau tari ai ngahi o ngongo i kai mo oni ko ia. Pea koe awe koe a ngai recommendation pe koe ngahi a whakatuku ko ia ki King County. Pea te nau lava lewa ki nau tolo liliu e nau whonga, koe uhi ke whakawhenā pasi mai moeanga e tau ulunganga whakatonga. Ko te peo o ki mahina te mea ko o atu. Pea te ke hange koe niko mau tau no whakoni i San Mateo County. Koe whehu i koe hae me whonga te ulawa toi ofi angai ki San Mateo County. Koe le ti o whowia he tau lama e tonga. It's a non-profit koe ka taha i kai whakapure anga. Ko ki nau tolu ia o ku channel mai ai ngahi tokoni pia mo ngahi polo kalama koe a San Mateo County.
Pea koe whaunga me whakia e melia. Ko taimi kanu ko o ku iei ha ngahi tokoni ai pure anga. O ku nau whano mai whakafou mai e ngahi non-profit kai pehe ki CRC. Hangi ko ngahi, hangi ko pokalama ko ni koe tuwhapaanga ko ni King County, panga ni mangi au, ke ki nau tolu ko ia o ko i kai kia nau pepa i whanuani. Nai whakafou mai i hangi ka Teasias Katolika. Ko uhinga e nau whakafou mai i ngahi a whaunga ko ni e meri, ko uhinga ko ngahi whakatahaanga o whalalaanga. Pero taimi ko o whakafou mai ai, o ku nau ilo whakapapau, o ku wau ai fo i whatongia ngā aue, peka kaweinga ngā aue ko ia, ki he kakai ko he o ku intent ko i ki ai e Meliseini. Ia ko pau ke tau whengaue aki ki tau tolu ia, ki tau tolu individuals, peka ki tau tolu tau taha, pia mo ngahi waa ko ia e Meli. Pea o tui o ku mau inga ke tau tolu as community, ke tau kau whakataha i whengaue aki. Pea moe kolo, moe city, moe county, ka pehe ke state ko ia o ku tau whakapae ai. O tewe mahau tokoni atu ia e Emily.
E lawa pe ke mo telefoni mai o mai o mo whakakaukau. Pea e lawa pe ke toki tohi mai pe koe hatai mi kehe o tuku mai ho whakaukau, pe te ke tau tā mai koe ka mau tō. Koe hoko atu e whengai aki wa awhi pia moe county e whakawhalala ia pia mihi e nau iloi a e tau whie mau. Nau iloi a e tau uhinga, nau iloi e mea koe o tau tokanga. What works in our community?
Hange beko ni e meli te uta no whatata me. O ko ke iai pe ai pe seti lahi ia o ki tau tolu ka inga tonga o ke ebe ki ai a tau malui a health ia tau tolu. Peko no wharea taha, koe toko lahi e ki tau tolu, o te e kia ebe kia ha insiua ia, ki e ta whaaki koe ni o health. Ko insiua koe ni koe ki e kakai, nofo whanua mo e kakai, koe oko pepa. Aia iloa koe medical, i Californiania, koe kia hako mau ia ki Seattle, koe na ui peka Medicare i Seattle. Ka koe ni. O ku iai pe a ngai pokalama kehe ia a ngai county mo ngai state ke kakai ko ia o ku ikai ke si iai ha nau pepa. Ko mea ko whakalolo mai. Mahina pe Emily ko tu koe i hitai ni mi pe a whekau aki pe mo e vaccine mo ki nau tolu ko puke. Ne os whakamahino mai pe me he federal level ki he state level o ku ikai ke charge hataha ia taimi tokotoi. Koe pilai ko ia, os mahino pe ia, e kawa ia, he estate pia moe federal. I anga koe e nau agreement, mo nau whengawe aki. Koe mea ko o ku Fia maa koe ke mahino koe kihe kakai. Oua te ke nofo pe o hange koe tō lahi. Nau nofo he ni ova he tau e whānoa ka hala pe hawhahinga insiwa ia kihe health Emily. O ka pau hange koe ni koe nau tōru koe ni o wikai ke pe pahe kei te foto atu pe kihe county o apply e te insiwa. O koe pe whaunga o kulava ke te whakaeke pia ko taimin koe Emily o ko maua he kakai a whainga maari me ngai non-profit pe ko hangahi siasi pe ko hangahi kulupu o identify he city ko ia pe ko county ko ia ke ave ke ngahi mea ofa koe ni. He ko ngahi mea ofa koe ni e meseni hange koe ni, for example, koe ngahi kiriniki heni i California ni heni, he? O kutuko mai he Facebook e Folau miliana lahi o fund mai aki koe tokoni koe vahe mai koe kongaia ki he ngahi insiwa peheni. O kai ngata be he Facebook, koe Google, koe Apple, o koe po kalama ia o kunau hanga e nau toluia o tuku mai ngai Folau miliona koe ni ke tokoni ki he city and county. Pia koe taimia kou nau hanga i koe o ngawek ai paanga koe ni ke kawa ai kakai koe ni o ikai koe ke kawa. In return, he turn for a business is a tax write-off. Ko lau miliona koe nau o mai, taimi koe e whaere koe nau tax. Au tau ilo pe maka peseti fitu nima o e paanga koe ia o nau mea ofa ki toi foki peke nau business. Koe pulawe pe ki ai Emily a mahu inga ke tau hanga o mahino i ai concept ai whunga ko whae koe ai whenga awe aki pia mo ngahi non-profit. E kai ki te whakapita pick up the telephone o tāt ki state and say, hey, I have no insurance. Ka e malawa pe ke whaka eke hangi ko mautolu ko heni koe i California koe taulama koe maai tonga taimou nau heni ai koe tahaia e good resource ki o tau kāinga tonga ke tahanga tonu ka maata pia mo Sicilia because they know where you need to call na ilo whapapau ai whitu ke tāki ai hangi ko Vake Tali Folau o ku ma ilo whapapau ai whika telefoni ke o atu ma au ke tāke ki nau tolu pe te nau hanga rewa o toko ni koe ke make sure o ku iai hao health coverage. Mau inga pito e meleseini e tau nofo he whonoani fufie mau ke wakai e tau tukunga e tau moui o te hifo he tau e taha o apau te ke physical te kai ke si o kato ke tā he koe mea koe hoko meleseini te tau tuko ware pe si mālolo e tō taha koe ni ka heanga koe wakai atu na kai pito tō nui ke mālolo he tau ilo pe e ngahi underlying health ko tau iai pe koe whakoutua o ko me mei tō lahi o ki tau tōru i he suka, koe toto ma o lunga, koe hai ai cholesterol, pe koe ngako hufanga whatapu iho tau sino. Emily, koe kau ia he ki e tolu o mea o ko wesia i ki tau tolu i Automotive Pasifiki. Pe lava pe ke avoid hange koe ni e mereseni, o kai ki umanatu i au mahalo kana e kamata e kufolofu e kau i mua pe e tahiwa wa kana ia o ki tahiwa wa na siwi hake a hoku toto whatapu na aku i he hiwa ngea wau. E tala mai he toke tāka te au. Sione, ki ila mahame o ke mo ui ai. He ko kutawi au koe kai kanga whukonga steak i moe hampaka. Koe, that's my favorite meal. Ta koe usti talu e toto i ke hiwa ngea. Ta mai toke tāka te au. Sione, I have to dilute your blood so the machine can read it. Ka lava he machine ke ne tala e tukunga ko ki ai a hoku toto. Pe eke mai rewa he toke tātau. Hey, ko recommending it. Okay, te ke lava o follow hafo espilini to taha i he aho. He aho ko toa pe. Ko whatongia, tau ilo pe whatongia espilini. Ko no whaka vai o e toto. E Mercein, na ku talu puka mana wahe ko ia i he tau ko ia ko meni ki mua ia hiwa wa pe au follow pe a fo espline ta he aho ko to pe fo i akau suka e taha he aho ko to pe fo i aho fo i akau high cholesterol e taha he aho ko to pe talu e ko to I mean talu e ko follow ga o ko ke whenga pe ke ki babu every day ko tui ko ke mana wa ko ni ko inga ko to si o ki to ta mono ma inga he ko tui o pa na kai mana folau at person dollar mahilia i he a konga ki mui o hiwa wa ko early he ta hiwa tolo make sense now and me say ni beka
It makes sense.
Pea koe tokanga i kina i koe tau whaamu koe ke tau he hoi ngoi ka inga pau ke mea mai. Kau ke ilo hi whahataha. O koe ki si ai hane coverage. Ki mo tolu koe Amerikani. Pea ke please call. Tāma i wāke te whlau ke whaia te tokanga. Emily?
Me se ini ko tui ko e toi ngā hawhi hou a koe ni. E whakafoki atu a ia ka koe ke te whakaosi a ho o
Nā
polo
mata
kalama.
mau i pe maho ki poka.
Ko tui pe o kia e ngahi, o kia e ho ngahi whatutu kai tupe mua. Koe wike ka hau.
Kaya.
O ku kamata ko ato apule lulu e hu mai ai a Pacific Island
Kanta mai ana ta koe nei to tongi ke mante koe. Pea o tui pe ana ke whamoi pe au. Tokanga pe hapalania e ki o sai.
Ko Pacific Islander Community Association o te o ke nau whahoko whatongia ki nau tolu i to apule lulu wike ka hau pe me i polo kalama asiado e a kawat whoki ki ai hoko atu ai pia polo kalama ko i a King County Health Department i he whalai te. Whawheki mo tō ki polo kalama ko ni, whawheki aho tau kāinga. Pe ngahi maunga whakamatala ia e toko ni lahi ka te tau tolu mai anga e tau whenga ke tau hanga o kalofi ai fuu haki pai fia ko ni. Ma whakamanato atu pe, koe mea konu hoko pe ko ngahi polo kalama konu whahoko ko e Seattle, King County, Seattle, Washington. Koe ngahi county nei pa pe koe kaunga api koe o King County. Katonga ngā i lava le rei pe ke whahoko mo ngahi polo kalama pe hen. Pe e lava pe ke whai ha whilo ngoaki. Manatui, koe King County, mo kaunga au he King County, o nao whi pōtara noa aki pe ki nao tolu, pe a mo kaunga au e koe ia i he Pierce County. Ani koe o mai. Pe koe county koe na koe o nofwai Medicine. Ai koe ngai wheitu, o koe ai pe ai ngai county ke kehi siata o nao tokolahi. Ngai pe koe o tokolahi a tau kāinga. Ngai koe ngai county ke kehe i a ngai state ni mangofulu Amerikani o kei ai. Lama pe ke tau whengao e aki. Ke whakahoko hawhainga polo kalama pe heni. Ke o mai au tau ngahi local government pe koe tau ngahi puri anga whakakolo. O mai o tana noa mai ka tau tolu. Ke ngahi whainga maalia, ke ngahi whamatala maho inga o whiunga mo tau mo i tau mo ui i whanuani. Ia koe ai, o ku whakawhi i atu ki mo tolu, ke tau kau whata. I kai ko mau tolu pe, ko mau whai e whekumi koe ia ki ngai county. Ai whenga ke whai e whetaki ni ma mo ngai county. Ka pa o ke ilo hataha o ngā o i loto ha county o ku ke iai. Ka mai ko tuk mai ne whika telefoni mo ne e-maili. Ka ngā ka mau whetutaki at ki ai. Whai haki ngā oe mo nao tolu. Kua koe whainga maari ko ia e mao pe e ki mo tolu. Oi kuma kāinga e Meseini.
Meseini, o whalahi atu.
Ai tai e toi ngā tai mi ma au. Ka tau tok hoko atu i he wike kaha o.
Kaya.
Malo o pita sena mo Emily e kau mai pe o ku wai wha malolo te hounga whoki. Ai poloklama ko ia ai leo o Siatoni i Hotani. Ko uhi ko e whetakoni aki o ku whai pe alawa ke mahu mai ai. O tau kau whakataha pia mo e kaunanga koe ni pia me he King County. Pia o hoko e koe tāpu aki ki Siatoni. Malo.
O whalahi atu, o whalahi kia siu. Kamanofua, malo.
Ahine pe I hua hatoe, te koe aho oi whakatete. Te koe aho e ni oi manu whikai whe tauraki anga o o tamatari. Te ulea kai whakamooni, ka mala e ni o kuke ilo. Te koe ua ia o pati mo si talo me tua I ke ano pani. O e nasi o sisi langa kali, te ulele pe mohi laki o. E koe si ale e ni o kuke tangi tangi te o whotu ake ke aho kakai. E koto pai e mo whakau alu, ko ake noa se e kumanatu. He nā kulele mai koe tari whekau pe a koa lawa ka whoki anu. Ta ahine pe I hua hatui, te koe aho oi whakatete. Te koe aho e ni ai manu whikai whe tauraki anga o o tamatari. kai whakamooni, o mama eni oku ke inoni. E koe ua ia o pati mo si talo me tuai ke anapani. Ko e nasi o sisi langa kali, te lele pe mo hilaki. E koe si ale eni oku ke tangi tangi te fotua ke aho kakai. E kutu pai o no whakau alu, toki no se kumana. He na aku lele mai koe tai whekau pe ako ala wakau whokia.
Vaka ali ali, ai kolosi kula.
tau miniti e wanoa pe hoko tonu ai ni ma. I he hoko tonu ko ia ai ni ma te tau mawale ma moauka i he whainga maare ko ni. Pe fia foke tatalelei ai tokataha i he community Tonga ko ne kau whataha mai moau i he proklama o e hoatani. Ai ana motok mea mai foke ki he proklama ko ia mo e kaunanga me he public health ko ia King County a Asiatoni. Pe kau aki pe foki pe mo e awareness o e COVID pe mo e huhu. Ka i he whainga maare ko ni o ko mau he ni a laina liu, la aina liu. Ko e hoa fokia o Samuela liu, ka ko e taha fokia o e kau whewhine whanua o e community Tonga ko ia o Siatoni. Pea te ukore anga pe ki a laina, ke ne whai moha ki whamatala ko uraki laina ko la vei foki ko e wiki ha amo eni. Whai pea ki whamatala laina ki he tūkunga utau iai, ko hanai ha mea ku ke hanga o ngoi he tau ko e ni. Tau anga whoki ko wike ko e ni, tau alu mau pe ki whare lotu o lotu. Pe weke o hinga iai ko tau alu ko ki whare lotu ko e wheitu pe ia ku whai ai lotu. Pe anengo wai ngai siasea ko e ke lotu, tak tahasum pe ki ana ngahi api mo e mea ko ia. Ka kokore pe laina ke whai hao ki i whakamatala, whakaloto lahi pepe ko e hape, a whekau aki, pea mo e tūkunga ku tau au sia he ngahi aho ni, pea mo e alunga ko ia e wike ni, ko e wike ha amo, hai nai hao au sia. Ko ia ko tuka te whainga maari e ko ni, laina, pea mo e whakamalo lahi ke te koe he tare whakatangi atu nai whai, ke whai mai hau ki whamatala.
Malo apita me seini, ki moa ke lea whawheta ke tu alangi ko e whainga maari e ka apini. E ulawa ai o whelonga ki moko he ea, pea ki mwike lea ko say happy new year tu ki Siatoni mo community, i he whainga maari e whawheta e ko tau laka mai ke watwe, wanoa wataha o tau ke whiongo aki. Ko kia te au i he talu wene tau whanonga mai ko eni, i he COVID tahi wā, pea mo lockdown ni, o ko tuike mea ko eni. Ko e lotu foki o kumaka tuunga pe ia i e tau tui. E tau tui whakarisiane. Pea ko e paneongo ai ko e haa whainga lao e siasi. Mo e anga ai whatonu lea hakarisiane. Kai maka tuunga pe lotu he mea te tui ki ai. Pea ko au o ko ikai ke fuongo e au ia ku iai ha no e sia au i he COVID tahi wā. Me whakataptapu i ko ni. Ko mea pia ko mahino i, ko e ofa lahi ai o tua ke kaukarisiane, pia mo e tuunga ko ni o e whanonga tau whai, o mune hanga ai o whai ko ni, hono lockdown ko na e ufare lotu. He ko tui ko o koe a kaukarisiane toko lahi, unau pe he ko lotu pe ai alpi whare lotu. Mo e whai e ngai whatongia ko e o lotu. Ka kuau mo e kutui, ta pe ma ngai tui ka te ulea pia he mea ko tui ki ai. Ko e lotu, ko whafo tui, ko e mahu inga hoto relationship mo hoto wā mo e otua. Ke te mahino i pa te pau ia, o ko to wā mo e otua o te tauhi ki ai. O hange ko e tauhi ko e alu ke lotu he sāpa te mamea. Ka kumau inga ke iaha to taimi pau o te tauhi ai otua i he te whakapange ko ni. Ke te ahe pongpongi mape o lauha te wholofola whai e te lotu. A kita pe. E wai ai whahinga. O toki lotu pe ki whale lotu. O koe ke whaha lotu i api, koe ke whaha te lotu whoi tui. E toki ai pe mea whai ai. Ka kumahu inga ke tauhi ia. Ke tauhi e lotu. E te hoto wā mo e otua whoi tui. Ua ki ai, ko tui ke mea koe tauhi ki whamiri. Ai tauhi o tua ki whamiri. Koe ulaki siasi o lau kai wholofola a api. Pe o si lewa ko ia patu alat ke siasi lai. E ko tui ka pau e ma opo pe e te Fafo itui aluat koto ki family paya lotu kato alpi apsiasi heka ke toi fai halongoa ai mo toi te lau ake siasi te alua tu pe ki fale lotu osma opo pe ko te alu ko eki o ku ye koto ape ko ngai eku tui e ko lotu e ko pe to la ko tu pe awia tape mo fa o ya fa ka ko ilo ko ai ka kai o ke fa lo family ai api wo pe to fa pe lo tu fa ko to mai pe ua ko ke la fo la ia he kau malanga to la pe fo la malanga pe o mai ha fa tongia to ka ngale va kiai ka ko au ko tu ko fa ko tu o ko tu o ta pu ni ko lo tu lockdown o to ka me o ta fa fo ta to ke ta to ka me ta personal relationship mo o tua pe osko ya pa moto ki family ke tau ya imagino fa lo tua ki family pa so alo le ke fare lo tu ko ia ko wikelo ha amo ko eni o ko fia pe awia ne o ko misi anga me mi pa ko ne asiasi e ke tu ke ta o ke ni ka ko time ta ta pe ko ke fia pe ke fai pe lo tu i api e pompongi mo e siasi ka kontui o pepe mga family ko ka konu tau alun ke teknologia ka isu mo me ate ha akia
Iyo.
ka ko au ke poesia he lockdown ko mi e ko me tata be ko faya me januari ki tisema ama inga ke la toka nga tau va mo o tua ke tau he lau fo la lau fa kulot lau fo la pa to ala ka fakata fai ko ala ko ya ko mahino pe ko al ke fango fo e ki ke al ke ai aku o pe he anga tu ko ke tunga ko ni tai ni
Ko fa mala fo ka ko laina I he whakauka o ku ke mau pea o ku whakawhiawhia ko inga o ku neongo ai ngai whakataputapui mo ngai mea o ku hoko ka ku ke whiawhia pe hange ko ho lau ko lotu ia o ke whai pe whare lotu ko lotu o ku whai he potu kotoa ka koe hange ko mea kuku ke lawe ki ai koe kau whoki ai e tau whakatataha koe kakai I Tonga koe kakai unau mana koe ke nau whakatataha ki e wheo toko la mo ngahi mea koe ia ka oku I he kuonga koe ni koe kau ia he mea whenga lahi ai King County mo e ko polkalama koe ai COVID a hono whakamama whai o I tauhi koe e wā mama o fute ono whakamama whai ke tui ho tau mas whakamama whai ke tau whano pea mai whaau pen ke hatu unga unau te pure mai pe te katanau ki nau tolu ko tau ngai loto whare ke whakangata e tari e kakai o unau hau ko tau loto whare ko hono uhi ngā pe ko he whenga ke whakasisi ko e COVID pea o tui au ko e konga ia ko ia o pesete te hawai e tau nofo pe ko I api o lotu ai ko nga ko kawia he me ki tau talango fua ki he lau ko ai pure anga o kunau o mai ko ma ki tau tolo
ko ia
ki tau whakangongo ki ai ka ko fia fo ke whainga mari ko ni he mau koe pa mono tari ko ke whai whakapotala noa ki he tuunga ko ia pe kuanga whewhe ai au sia ko ke au sia he ngahi whakataputapu ko ni he ngahi wike ha amo ko ni ta wanga hoko ko wike loto he wike ke he aho ki he aho ki he aho whai ai mo whanki I kai ka koe katoa ngahi polkalama ko ia o whihanga hangai e mo polkalama ko ai COVID pea ko whiawhia ai ke I lo pea ulawe ai o ku ke kau whakataha I he tui whakataha mo teke ko ia polkalama ko ia King County ai tau he ai wa mama o mo e nofo toko lahi he ko ngā ko ngalahi o mao ai ki tau tolu he mahaki ko tau unganga whakawhonua pe ia o ki tau tolu
ko ia
ai tari kakai ai wheohi ka wau mai ki hatu unga o kuia e mahaki o kuto pea o mau inga lewa ki tau talango fua ki mua ke ta whakaosi laina ko ata pe ki whainga maare ka wai ha mea ke whee whai ai hao ki pōpoa ki pe koha mea ke te whee rea ki ai ko watu ka koe ai whainga maari e ko ene.
Ko pefia pe ke ulawe ke konga koe han ko lau koe tapu I mo mea. O ko ngo I foki e au ko miso whamo puna, ko mise family e taimo ko ma. Ka koe taim tatau pe o whakaampe ke whaitea talango fua ko hi koe lao, koe atakai. Ka ko no mo oni oku kati pe ai ko hange ko mau ke tu ke ta ko e family o ka ke to la ka na ha pe na kambe o visit pe ka ko e mamo ko en pa ka no kamu pe ko ya ma ospega na alu pa ko ospega ya ko pe tu mai pe to ta mai me akai mo me ka mau o mis fo ke ko ya pa o pe ku ma hua ki tu o ma alu mau ke api kanal tolu ke api o visit ya pe tu ua pe na ku mai ki tu mau ke tu ke tai pa na pa ma foki mai o ke malava hu ko na fare o ko I pe ko masio pe in ke pe ko maua ko vai ka aku pe he ai atu e tai mini ka ko ta pa e ta ko mise au pito ai family pa mo ki si ka ku time ta pe ko kange ko lao o ku ke pe fo ke to ta mo family mo he ka ko pe fia pe ko se pe ke talang o fu pe ki he anga ko ta e lao ka ko pe ko encourage pe ta to ko ta to ha ko lave ko ta to nga fo ki ko kai ta la ta to ke tau ki to si ta sa ia ma pe fa to la hi ko ta fe ho ko ko ta wa na ta tu pa mo ya ke tu ke ta fo ha family ka ko tu pe te ta wa pe ka tai mi te ta fo ki le fa te ri ka ko tu e tai mi ko ni o ka le pe ke ta ko to pe ke tau pe ai lao me ngo kwai fai nga tu ku te ai ka ma winga pe ke tau he lao ai me ko no tala mai ko le anga ko e fonu ko no tau no fo ai o pa ke tau tala no fo ta to ki ai ne ngo ai ko ai me te tu ki ai ka pa ke tau tala no fo ki ai kai ko o tu fai nga ta ape pa ku ka ko tu ka pa te tau tala no fo ape e al pe taimi ka tau ngo le wa o tau tu e whatau atai na I pe tau tonu ke lava toi hoko ate ke tu ke tā mo tau whio hi ka mau inga safety ka tau tole anga koe ai tau whanonga mo tau no community e ko ia ko tu pe ko ta pe mea ko o kanga ke mau inga ke tau talango fua pe whakapoto o koe pe whainga whio ton ke tuku koe whainga whio ton ke whai ka o tau tui kehe foki ka ko mahu inga ke tau te whakatui aki pa o te si o kita ke whai pe kita mea te whi mau ka kilo koe tahai e la vea ai ka pau te tau whi o whaaki pe o ko tui pe te tau mone koe pe tala ko fola tau whi whakai ai tau tole ngau ele I mo whi o whaaki ka aku mahu inga ke tau whi toka I aki ai anga whanonga koe ke tau ila ka hau ka pau te tau talango fua ko tui koe ki pe ia ke tau whanonga ka wawa tau whakatau ataina ka mo for our safety foki ko ki mea pe ko ki lavisi at kai me se mahalo pe na tokoni pe lea koe ni
malo pita laina fa malo la he apita por kamani ke te koe I he kaumai I he whiawhini pea koe kauen he pōpō mahu inga ki he society o ki tau tolu kautonga koe uhiong mo one apita ho lau koe ki kakai whiohia ki tau tolu ka koe mea pe o mahu inga taha o koe ke uhinga e tau tae whiohi o tau tae whiofa aki hangai koe lau tau whiofa aki pea kakau ka tau hi pe lao e whonuane wa mama o mlo lahi e toko lahi ko ngā ko tau wheinga pe ke holoki ai COVID ki lalo pe hange ko lau ko taimi ko ho tō ai ko ki lalo te tau toi whakataha pe mo tau ngai family ka o honga ki he polkalamani ho kau mai pe koe o whalahi atu ki a te koe o whabete ke mauha weekend mo tau fo o mo hoa mo family ha tau e te tau lawe monu ai he whanonga anga o i wanoa wataha pe a malangi aku tawhitonga. O whalahi atu ai programan whamalo ke te koe i he kaumai i he hoatani.
Malo pito.
Ia, o whātu.
Ia, na whā.
Koe ui e ni ke tonga kotoa pe ta whoki ki a sisu ke ui pe whanongo ai tonga mo unga ki he loto me tuku ki langi tanu mei po ono oi he ka e kuongo ka fohe loto he me aku o hoko kei vilingia a e ta fuka whai ki ai a whakamaunga
Tau wau mai ni ki he whakasasinga o e programa ko ia. O mo programa whale te o ko ia pe mo e le o e tonga me se atu wasinga toni ki he hoda e whiawhi whalai te ia ko ni. Ugai e whamalo lahi pe me te au ko mo whini mutu a whahau whatangia o e hoda e whiawhi ko ni. Ki e mo tol koto pena mo hu mai o tau kau whataha i he programa o e whatani. Aia ko e programa na e whakawhito ia i he programa whakaivia ki Mautoro e he King County mo e Public Health ko ia o Siatoni ke mau whai ha taratala noa pēha mo ha whakailo atu ai amanaki ko ia ki tau kamata ia hono ngawe aki ko ia o e huhu po ko e vaccine ko ia ko ome ke whai hono malo ia ki tau tolu, pēr mo tau whakasisi ko uhi ko e COVID tahi wā. Wai whamalo lahi whoki ki he hoa o e tikoni, o e mo ui a kalasika ko Samuela Leu, ki a Laina Leu i hene kaumai e proklama hoatani, pēr o koko ia ko tāpua ki he proklamani, ko e taha ia ngahi whae o e community Tonga. Ko ia ui ai e tala manu ke te moto ko toa peka i ngā tonga tau kau whataha e proklama o e hoatani. Mo e awhaka osi ko ia wike mau inga wike ni, wike hamo, ko e ofa ia mo e whakatauange me he proklamani te mo mau ha e whiawhi whaka osi. Ha ko whonu mo ta pekina, pea whonu he keres ia i he amanaki ko ia ke whaka osi wike hamo. I he ahoni nengo ko Osia Tonga a Neafi, ka o kutoku wha Osia Amerika i ahoni, ka ko e whakanauna uia o he whiawhini. Whakatawanga be te mo maawa wikendi whonu whiawhia ka mahuru hake ai mo ui lele. Malo pito ho mo mea mai, ko au merese ini vei ki te seka mo whini motu a paha whatongia ia o e hoatane ka mo mea. Whawe ho mō tōru ke mō kau whakatahe no tali ko ia, proklama ko ia, hiri ko ni me he Victorville, me Los Angeles, me a Sione, a semisi po me e kauma a hono hoa whaanga ko Lindsay po me e, pe mo e proklama ko ia ai whiunu ia o Tonga i he balu ia ki he nimaia ki he balu e poni, pea foki ai whaka hokwatongia ai Vake Tali Folau I he walu ki he tahataha ki he main station ni ki a sione pea mo Emily Tafu.